It's New Brew Thursday.
Woo!
And we're back in the studio.
We're in the studio. How awesome.
Wow.
And Brad's with us again. Yay!
Even though it looks like I just was with you.
Yeah, I know. Awkward. Well, we just got back from Chicago, which was epic.
Yeah, Chicago was
And
more
I know
than
I say epic a lot. Deal with it. Epic. It was epic. It was an epic way to be epic in epic Chicago because it was epic.
Epic.
I appreciate you're not doing any episodes up there.
Oh yeah.
Minus they're not real episodes anyway.
Well, it's a real episode.
The
It just
Hopcast
wasn't.
one?
It just wasn't.
Well, the
a New Brew
Hopcast
Thursday
was.
episode.
Well, yeah, that's the Hopcast episode.
Yeah.
Which is Brad is referring to the fact that we got to meet the Hopcast guys. So we hanging out with some beer celebs in Chicago, and
Yes.
they invited us to sit in on an episode of theirs. So that'll come out. You don't get to be in it. Then.
No, I was doing the Warrior Dash instead.
Loser!
Running in mud and water and
Drinking Pyramid Hefeweizen. Hashtag
Yeah.
just saying.
exactly.
So today, to celebrate being back in the studio, we're doing an epically large beer known as Ranger IPA.
Awesome.
It's actually not very large at all. It's
actually
it's
a very
new
drinkable
beer
IPA.
from New Belgium.
I don't know if it's really new.
It's new. Well, it's new to
It's
me.
new to us, I think.
It's you know it's a really really good IPA. It's very well balanced and it's not very expensive.
Yeah,
it's like
super cheap.
for this bottle, it's like $3 to $4 a bottle. So,
Yeah.
Daddy lag.
And we've been doing such huge epic beers lately that we thought we'd get some pizza, some craft pizza made lovingly by our producer Yvonne. She's awesome. And so we thought we'd get together and drink some IPA and get in the studio again.
Yeah.
We haven't been here since January.
Come back to our roots.
January.
That's kind of weird.
January 28th.
Time flies.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I'm going to open this because it has been calling to me for the last 5 minutes that I have not been drinking.
Yeah. Oh,
And,
I'd open it for you,
always
but
last.
you've been mean to me.
yeah.
and we're
Story
not
of
going to
my
put these
life.
on coasters because that's how we feel about you and your table.
Yeah, I hope your table has water rings when we leave. Oh,
It's
I didn't
our-
mean
it's
that.
our
I didn't mean
table.
that. I didn't mean that.
You're so
That was
hurtful.
deep.
What's your problem?
That cuts to the core.
I love the aroma on this one.
Yeah, it's
Especially.
really
got a nice
good.
head. It's such a it's. I don't want to call it a light IPA because it's not at all light. It's.
Actually, it says on the bottle, "Are you a hopanista? Thank our beer rangers for inspiring and begging for this well-balanced Simcoe, Cascade, and Chinook hopped IPA 70 IBU."
Yeah, 70's low for what we're used to now.
Well, it's
70
still,
used to be
you know-
considered extremely high.
Well, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. It's also 6.5% alcohol by volume.
Yeah.
So overall,
It's just right on the border of being sessionable. It doesn't.
Yeah, I
it
would
doesn't
say for
slap
an
you in the
IPA,
face.
this is very sessionable.
Yeah.
It's very clean, light.
It smells really good too.
Got a great aroma on it. And it's like I've had some people tell me like, oh, it's okay, and I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It's for $3.99, it's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's not like you're paying $12 a bottle like you are for some of these other IPAs that had better taste like they are $12 a
Right.
bottle.
Yeah, exactly.
And so
For a $3 or $4
I would say this is
IPA.
a really well done beer.
yeah, exactly.
And
So
it might be because I just had some really strong beers for the pre-show, but it's tasting pretty light.
well, and I think the first time you had this, you called me up right away and were like, oh, I want to do this on the show. I wanna
Yeah,
do this
totally.
On the show. So you were really
Especially when
excited
I
about
bought a 6-pack for $8. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, 6-pack for $8, a New Belgium IPA that's this good.
it. Well, and it's made better by
Sold.
the fact that we got to hang out with some of the brewers from New Belgium this last weekend. Not to rub it in anybody's face. We were in Chicago. Ah!
Yeah.
And so
That was pretty cool.
Eric in specific from New Belgium, like, dude, that guy was so awesome.
Yeah,
And we got to
Eric,
shoot Lauren, his wife, for part of our I'm a Craft Beer Drinker video, and she was really cool with that. And just the New Belgium people were just so awesome all weekend.
Yeah, Eric was one of the first people to actually approach us and be like, "Hey, what's up?" Even though he probably didn't even know who we were, but we
He
were
just
at this
remembered
party
us, and yeah, it was like it was so cool about it.
That's
Yeah.
super cool.
And he's just a nice guy. And the next day when we shot the video, he came up and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" I'm like, "Hey, I kind of want to hang out with you, but
But you probably think it was weird if I said that, so I'm gonna keep that to myself.
you're a fun guy."
These are
guy.
the things that you say inside. So, but yeah, we had such a great time though, because it was just like one after party after another. And then I think we were hanging out with the Hopcast guys the last night, and we just kind of randomly ended up at the after party for the World Beer Cup.
Right.
So can you talk about these after parties, or is it like what happens in Chicago stays in Chicago?
Well, there are some things that I probably would leave in the after party bar, but I mean, it was really cool. I got to sit and chat with Garrett Oliver of Belgium Brewing, which was huge for me because I have a lot of respect for him, and he's probably one of the most intimidating brewers that you'll ever meet because he's always like dressed to the nines.
Oh
and
God.
He's super high class, and I'm like, here I am in like shorts and a freaking t-shirt, and it's like dirty, and I'm like, oh hey, what's up, dude? Like,
He's all pimped out.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, oh, I love your red pants. No one else can pull that off but you.
Was he super nice?
Yeah, it was like
dude.
such an awesome dude, and there were so many people. Like we met Vinny Chaluzzo, which also just amazing.
Cool.
Such an awesome guy. Mitch, who is the owner of Lush Wine and Spirits in Chicago, and if you're in Chicago, like I am jealous of
Lush
you
is
because that
awesome.
place.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you had beers from the West Coast that we can't get here.
Yeah.
Like, what was that about? Seriously, like they had Hot and Roth, and we can't get Hot and Roth right now.
Oud de Tart on tap.
Yeah,
it's not
Oud
on
de
tap.
Tart,
It's,
yeah.
You go to the brewery, it's not on tap. It's not on tap
Right,
anymore, and they
right.
had it on tap.
So yeah, I was kind of jealous of Chicago's beer scene a little bit. I didn't really expect
kind of
that.
like Japan, where Japan has some beers that we should have here yet don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a whole other story, though.
And I think a lot of that too might have been because it was the CBC and a lot of people
yeah,
were bringing
yeah.
stuff out. But so it was really cool, like meeting the Hopcast guys and getting to see kind of what their scene's like and what they're doing, and that was really awesome. And I'm kind of a little jealous of them now, even though we do live in a beer mecca, and it's hard to be jealous of anybody really. Chicago had such a cool scene.
so back to the Ranger
I'm gonna have
IPA.
some spicy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're doing
Spicy with
a
this.
different,
This is a
very like wide variety of pizzas.
Yeah, we have a
here.
sausage and prosciutto, and then a pesto and tomato, and the mushroom and onion, and the most delicious of all of them is the Spanish chorizo and peppers.
I'm going straight for the chorizo
Yeah, it's
Ditto.
pretty crazy.
because it's delicious. This is a good way to be back in the studio.
Yeah.
Beer and pizza.
But you know what? Craft beer and craft pizza takes that staple and just takes it to a new level.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, seriously, if we were noshing on like a pizza at pizza, it'd be all right.
Dude, the chorizo with this beer is perfect. I'm telling you.
But this is awesome. Handcrafted with love.
It blends well, and then after you drink the beer, you still get the chorizo. It's perfect.
Yeah, that slight spiciness kind of cuts through.
The pairing for an IPA, you want to generally stick with like a gorgonzola kind of cheese, a moldy blue cheese, kind of strong flavored cheese. If you go with a dessert, you want to get something with a lot of flavor, something with some cinnamon and nutmeg. But if you're going to go with meats, you want to go with like a spicy kind of like steak with like a peppercorn rub or like a spicy Thai dish. And so when you're going with pizza, you're going to pair, not the sauce necessarily but what the strongest flavor profile is, which is going to be the spicy meats that are on this. So it really works out really well. I mean, I watched her hand roll this
Yep.
crust.
It's 100% handmade.
And that's just like when you bring these kind of things together, like even if like I said, beer and pizza, it's kind of an obvious whatever, and it kind of takes it back to the level of that we don't want to see beer at, which is like, oh, it's a bowling alley beverage or it's a whatever. But when you create this amazing style of craft pizza with craft beer, you have an awesome flavor profile.
Well, I think this with the Ranger and the pizza also represents like people going, not necessarily going away from the big beers and the popular, whatever the celebrity beers that we talked about before.
Right.
And this is a beer. It's not necessarily a celebrity beer, but it's a really good
Well, it's a
staple
celebrity
kind of
brewery.
beer.
Yeah.
Well, it is, but I mean, it's not like people are rushing out to get Ranger.
Right.
They're
Right.
it's just it's there. You can buy it. They sell it in freaking Stater Brothers in California.
Right.
Like that's awesome that I can just buy this at Stater Brothers.
This is a fantastic grocery store beer it's perfect.
Yeah, it's great.
And I think that you could actually serve this to your non-craft beer drinking friends, and they would probably see it as kind of a little bit harsher than what they're used to.
Yeah, I
Probably,
would say
but it would
I
be a
wouldn't see
much
this
easier-
as a win-over beer, but it would open up their eyes a little bit.
Yeah. It's like, here, try this. It's got a big flavor profile,
Right.
compared to your Bud Light that you're drinking.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think this is really a beer that is almost on the threshold of what we're seeing as far as the concept that there's so many people that are into like the 55% Imperial Russian Stout beers that just
Like
you have
extreme.
half a bottle of one and you pass out drunk.
Wow.
Versus
55%, really?
no, it doesn't exist yet. I'm making it up. It's
Where
currently
is that?
sitting in a bottle that's called X Brew that has not
is
been
brewed
bottled
on-
yet.
This is like a B. This is above average, but not like crazy extreme excellent in terms of alcohol percentage right?
Yeah, I mean it's
Like a 6.5.
yeah, it's
definitely
right there. It's
more
right there.
than the average.
And I think that the idea of what a sessionable beer is going to come up a bit because it's always been like 5% and below. But I really think it's going to be about like 7% and below is going to start to be what the sessionable beers are, because I think America as a whole is developing a tolerance. Thank God.
America's
Wow.
a booze hound.
Booze hounds.
Well,
Yeah.
traditionally speaking, sessionable is what, 5 and below. Mm-hmm. So I mean, I guess this isn't very sessionable in that sense,
Right.
but
Well,
for me it is. So,
So sessionable, being,
also includes flavor profiles.
sessionable being the average, like average alcohol percentage in beers.
No, sessionable
you're-
means
if you're
that
labeling
you can
beers-
sit and drink them nonstop for a long period of time without getting inebriated or like having the flavor profile be too
What's
much for
the
you.
rate? If you drink like sipping
Hi, kids.
nonstop,
It's time
or
for Brad's Math
chugging
Hour.
nonstop.
I do see like a movement towards the sessionable beers, and I like that. I think it's a good idea because I love having a bunch of people over, and it's so hard when my entire fridge is full of older viscosity and serpent
Yeah,
stout and
yeah.
all these beers that are like, oh well, I'm gonna
It's
sip
so
on this
true.
for the rest of the night, but I'm not gonna really be able to drink
Especially
it.
when you have your friends who aren't necessarily craft
Exactly,
beer fans
exactly.
or advocates.
So it's good to see that these kind of beers are getting made and pushed out and whatever. But speaking of beers that are not quite sessionable or even really attainable, that brings up this week's Master Pairings.
brilliant segue.
Brilliant segue. Which Brad, why don't you talk about what you did with Dr. Bill? Not that part.
I was fortunate enough to have an amazing creme brulee with a Thomas Hardy beer. They paired excellently together. It was by far one of my most favorite master pairings
Thomas
to
Hardy.
date. And
Not Ed Hardy, his slutty brother who makes bad clothing, but Thomas Hardy. The
I'm not
amazing-
familiar with the Hardy
The Hardy
lineage,
boys. The Hardy Boys.
the genealogy of the Hardys. But yeah, it was really great, and here it is. Okay, I found myself yet again in the magical kitchen of Dr. Bill, but I am wholly ignorant of what we're about to embark on. What do we have in front of us?
Well, for this Master Pairing Sessions, we have a classic English Old Ale or barley wine that's no longer produced, unfortunately. This is the 2005 Thomas Hardy's Ale, originally produced in 1968, named after the trumpet major Thomas Hardy's, a famous English author. And I'm one of only 4 or 5 people that, I'm one of 4 or 5 people that did the very first vertical of every year from 1968 to 2001, including multiple bottlings.
1968?
Yeah, 1968. So I have, luckily, a lot of extra bottles laying around for different
I would
vintages that
assume
we
so.
picked up. So the 2005 is drinking great right now, and it's a fabulous English-style old ale or barley wine. And what I thought we'd pair with it today is Stilton. Borough Market Stilton. Borough Market Stilton is just this fabulous Stilton cheese that, I mean, if you look at the age on that and the way it is, it's just it's the Stilton as far as I'm concerned. And it is going to be a marriage made in heaven. Also, another cheese that goes really well with this is aged cheddar. So I have a couple aged English cheddars. One's 18 months and one's 3 years. And those are going to be really nice too. So we'll try those first and then get to the cleanup spot in a minute. And also just because I thought maybe we could have a little creme brulee.
Awesome.
Okay, so let me open these Thomas Hardys. As I said, this is no longer made, but I'm hoping that someone picks it up. Phoenix Imports.
That's an excellent bottle opener, I just want to say.
Oh yeah, it's
Thank you
compliments
again,
of Sam and Mariah from Dogfish Head. It's a fabulous bottle opener. Phoenix Imports holds the license for the name Thomas Hardy's. And when the original brewery went out of business, they started another English brewery, and they just stopped making it last year. So it was a very sad time for us beer aficionados. But when you try this, you're just gonna. Have you ever had an English barley wine before?
Yes, but
Do you know which one? Not to
No.
put you on the spot. Do you just remember having one?
I don't know. Maybe I haven't. Does Hobgoblin count? Is that not quite barley wine?
Not quite,
Yeah.
but they're much more subtler than American barley wines, but they have this huge malt background. Basically, think cognac, brandy,
Yeah.
sherry, port. Madeira.
There's kind of a warmth to it.
Oh my gosh, this is my favorite barley wine. Sit in the back,
Wow.
in front of a roaring fire, cigar. You know, it is just an amazing
Without that kind
barley
of
wine.
like harshness to most brandies, you know, it has, but still all that kind of
This is the official
the
Thomas Hardy glass.
complex flavor.
Well, you get this prune, plum, winter fruit figs. I almost walked off site and grabbed a big snifter out of my bar and put it on there out of camera. This
is really
drove me
good.
crazy. But the aromatics in this is amazing, and there's nothing like this.
Wow.
Matter of fact, after we film this episode, maybe we'll open like a 1990 for everybody to try.
Yeah.
But yeah, isn't
I
that
want to go
amazing?
swimming in this.
Yeah.
This is
That
delicious.
is decadent and lovely. Why don't you try that cheddar, and I'll try this one, and let's see how they pair.
So are these the same?
No, they're different. Really good. Flavor crystals, caramelization in the cheddar alone just bring out this really nutty flavor. Big, plum, just explodes in your mouth. The nuts, it's just like
Yeah.
being in
It
the
brings
middle
out
of
the-
England. You get roasted chestnuts, you get the steam rising from the manholes. It's just amazing. Isn't that delicious?
Yes.
Yeah, that is great. The nutty flavors. Now, here, flip flop. Try a little of this side.
Yep.
Slight variations, but I think you're going to find that they're both quite lovely with it, and you can't go wrong.
This is definitely softer.
That lovely.
Yeah, it just kind of coats the tongue.
It's hard to talk because it's so good. It's just so decadent. You don't want to talk about it, but it really brings out the vibrancy of the fruit. Now, I've been waiting for this. There you go.
Thank you, sir.
A little Borough Market's Stilton. Rich, creamy, very subtle, but a lot of complexity. And this is going to make that caramel just come popping out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
It's super sweet all of a sudden. I was expecting more crystals. Maybe it's just my piece.
Yeah. No. In this, you won't pick it up the same way you will the aged cheddar, because what you're going to pick up is the blue, but the blue is really mellowed. There's not that big tangy bitterness.
Totally.
There's not the ammonia. Not that you should have ammonia, but you can see this is pretty aged. It's got a nice mold background. It's just beautifully crafted. This is Stilton cheese that's made from some of the finer producers. It's
Stilton
one of the
done
best
right.
brews. Yes. I understand you guys had a creme brulee episode.
We did, actually.
How'd that turn out?
The cameraman saying not well, so.
Okay. Well, this is a big community creme brulee. You like that? So we're just going to jump in there.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, family style. Okay. First
damn
off,
good.
that's a really good creme brulee. For the size, it's a huge, delicious creme brulee. Oh,
Now,
wow.
what it's going to do, it's going to,
It's quite the opposite almost of
Right.
Stilton.
and that's what you want. This is going to bring out some of the other characteristics. It's going to shy away from the caramelization and the big, heavy winter fruit. And so it's going to bring out some of the other characteristics.
Yeah.
It's going to, not even hoppiness, but it's going to bring
Yeah,
out
it
a little
almost
bitterness.
the bitterness, yeah. But
a
is that not from
floral
the
malt.
hops? Or?
Well, yes, but you don't get a lot of hops flavor
Right.
in this when you taste it,
Right.
but it just brings out all these other characteristics you would never imagine in a Thomas Hardy's ale.
Right.
Or any English barley wine. Matter of fact, I'm going in again, so
Yeah, interesting.
stay to your side. It brings out this bitterness in the mid palate, this kind of earthiness that you don't normally pick up, this and hints of nut, and then you get these winter fruits, but you get these lighter winter fruits. You get almost like a raisiny flavor that comes through,
Yeah, I
and,
can
and,
see
you,
that.
and you get that little hint of bitterness that you can get from like a golden raisin, and so you get this golden raisin flavor,
It's almost like it becomes more of like a barley wine that you would expect.
almost like a West Coast barley wine.
Yeah, right.
But overall, I think it's a great pairing. Stilton, hands down. But the
To pair.
creme brulee, yes,
to pair. But by itself, this I can't eat more than just 2 bites of that. That was so decadent and rich.
the Stilton for the pairing is amazing. The cheddars are great and the creme brulee is great, but they all bring out these fabulous characteristics in
different,
this barley wine. So I hope you enjoyed this pairing.
As always.
All right.
Another
Cheers.
great Master Pairings with Dr. Bill.
Boom. This week's craft beer advocate is Barry from New York. Barry sent us a video via YouTube telling us how he first got into craft beer and how he still advocates for craft beer to this very day. So Barry, thanks for the video. And if anyone else would like to send in their craft beer advocacy story, you can send it to advocate@newbrewthursday.com and we'll get on the show.
The way I advocate craft beer started when I first got into craft beer because, of course, you know, you don't want to have the journey by yourself. You want to have it with as many people as possible. So I was lucky to live in Israel actually for a year and a half after high school. In Israel, well, they do have their fair share of macro lagers, you know, not the American ones, but Carlsberg, Tuborg, stuff like that. They also have a good amount of Belgian beers and British beers. So, you know, I didn't, at that point I didn't consider it craft beer, but you know, I considered it beers that tasted better than the stuff that, you know, my brother and I had while we were in high school, which was the usual American macros. When I got back to America, of course, after having already tried stuff like Leff and Hoegaarden, I didn't want to, there was no real curiosity to try other macros. And the more beers I tried, the more I'm like, you know what, you know, this is something, you know, that I really want to develop into a hobby. For advocacy reasons, the more craft beers I drink, the more I realize that, you know, that by even just buying beers like, you know, the Port Brewing Company beers or any other craft brewery beers, you're essentially advocating for craft beer because, you know, these businesses, you know, depend on their sales, you know, rather than marketing. So even just buying it, you know, is good. The more I, you know, got into craft beer and advocated it, the more I gained, you know, an appreciation for craft beer. You reach out, you know, through your blog and, you know, on Twitter and Facebook to other people so that, you know, not only you show that, you know, there's tons of enjoyable craft beer, but you also say, no, it's not the only part of it, is that once you subscribe to an industry which is so dedicated to, you know, quality products, that that you should involve yourself as much as possible to making sure that that craft is harnessed and promoted. So, cheers to you guys, and I hope we can all as craft beer advocates can continue to join together and advocate for the best beverage in the world, which is of course craft beer. Cheers.
Boom.
So this has been an amazing night. I'm very happy that we're back in the studio. I'm very happy to be back with my boys.
Well, I was always here.
Aww.
You know.
Yeah, John doesn't let me in unless we're actually filming, and I just sit out in front of his house and weep.
That's not what I meant.
Or he hides in the bushes.
I do hide in the bushes sometimes, but that's out in front of your house.
Oh, right.
So, anyway, this has been a great episode of New Brew Thursday, and as always, stay safe
And drink beer.
Cheers.